Hey guys, it's Two Guys in Hockey Talks. I'm Pavel, and
I'm Evan. And Pavel, we're guest free today.
oh my goodness, it feels like we need to fill the void with just whatever thoughts we have percolating in our minds, right?
Well, today you are going to be the expert, so I will make you my guest, and I will be your guest.
I appreciate it. I appreciate the little bit of thin stubble you've got going on, the 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah, but the agreement was you were going to go clean last week, and so I got the stubble from the week. So I almost thought, because I live in Edmonton, I thought that I should actually get rid of it now that they're totally eliminated. So before we go on, hey everyone, we just want to let you know that today we are not going to disclose anything as of today on Wednesday, May 26th. We're going to let you guys, if you're recording, if you're doing anything, we're not going to share any information here today. We're going to go back from the 25th back, which means, obviously, for you Oiler fans, you Capital fans, you Blues fans, we're going to take some time and going to talk about it. So grab your bevy, get ready, because Pavel and I, and by the way, I don't know, Pavel, if you noticed, I nicknamed you the Cat.
I did notice that.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's going to stick, but you know, I've had a few nicknames over the years, so you know what, this is one of the more creative ones, one of the more clever ones, so I'll take it. I got to think of a nickname for you, maybe like Evan the Beardless Reynolds.
The bald and the beautiful. Okay, sure.
Well, we all know this is a Beauty and the Beast, right? And you just got to determine who is who. Write your comments who you think is the beauty and who is the beast.
So all I got to say is I'm going to give you that cat name. I'm going to keep clawing away at it, and we'll see if it sticks. It won't stick to me. But, okay, man, let's get into this, some juicy stuff. Where should we start? What team should we talk about that's been gone and they've hit the golf course?
So I think Washington and Boston, only to allude to our former guest last week with Mike Smith, being a big Boston Bruins fans, and, you know, him being challenged about, you know, the performance of Boston, what that's going to look like. Their trade deadline acquisitions with Curtis Lazar, with Taylor Hall, of course, your favorite, Evan, the guy who's going to make or break this team, you know, and some other guys that they picked up. And of course, even Tuukka Rask playing the way he does at his age and what he's been able to perform, and, you know, their secondary scoring coming through. And Washington, like, where does Washington go from here? You know, Ovechkin is, I believe, a UFA this year. You know, his contract is up. And recently, I think they made comments that I think it was Brian McClellan who said that apart from Ovi and who was it? One other guy, no one is exempt from a trade. So you know.
So interesting enough, just following some of the Twitter boys around the Washington area, and so just, you know, hearing a few of the voices, there's some people that actually think they're not going to sign Ovi because he doesn't want to come back. Which I can't imagine Ovi going anywhere else. I don't know what anyone else's take is, but it's got to just be rumors because, you know, they failed. They really did. They dropped the ball. So get this. I'm just looking right now at the stats here on the TSN for the playoffs. So basically, you got Ovechkin and Oshie with 4 points in 5 games in their playoff. That could be a big problem.
Yeah. And with Seattle expansion coming, it looks like TJ Oshie may be the odd man out going there, right?
Wow.
So I mean, who knows? Anything can happen. We're looking forward, and we hope that you join us when we start creating our own mock draft for Seattle Kraken. But yeah, like with the Washington Capitals, they're getting older in age. Now, I will say their goaltending is questionable, and I think they were a little bit hamstrung when Henrik Lundqvist had to go in for surgery, right? You know, he's recovered, he's playing again, or he's training again at least, and things are going well for him. But at the same time, you've got an aging core, and a lot of them are, you know, in their later years for hockey age, and you wonder, what do you do? Do you build around Ovechkin? Now, one friend of the show who's been on the show has a crazy conspiracy. Yeah. We'll talk about Edmonton a little bit later, but
are we going to talk about which friend?
He knows who he is, but what one of the things he suggested, and of course with Wayne Gretzky, congrats to him joining the TNT panel.
Yeah.
And with him stepping down and going to the States,
Yeah.
what if Ovi puts on an Oilers jersey, plays with McDavid on his wing, and beats Gretzky's record in an Oilers jersey? That was his prediction. So comment below if you think this is false. Will it happen? I mean, it would be unreal to see. I don't think Edmonton has that cap space.
Oh man, I think you just made some angry people here who follow us, who can't stand the Oilers, are tired of them trying to take all the top players all the time and still go nowhere as an organization.
Again, I disclosed this was not my idea. This was someone else.
So if you're out there and you're following right now in the comments, or if you're following later in the week, you can just put it in the comment section. How do you think they can fit Ovechkin into the salary cap here in Edmonton? You got your ideas? Throw them down. And if you're a Washington person, how do you convince Connor McDavid to leave the Oilers? Because how many seasons in is he? And they've got 3 playoff appearances, and he's not even a point-a-game player in the playoffs. What do you say to that, Pavel?
I mean, it's tough. It's on the one hand, it's a disappointing end to this season because you know they had the upside, they had the momentum, they had the record over the regular season, but for whatever reason, Winnipeg just played a system that was able to limit McDavid and Draisaitl. Like that's what it is. On the other hand, you look at all the greats that are Hall of Famers right now, and Evan, you can attest to this. Whether it's Paul Kariya, Teemu Selanne, Steve Yzerman. Mario Lemieux, all these guys who played so well, and it took them a while to get into the playoffs and actually have success. Even Steve Stamkos, and even you look at someone like John Tavares, who has yet to get a cup, but took a while to get to the playoffs. I think when he was with the Islanders, he only got in once or twice, right? So I say be patient, and I know that's a word that Edmonton Oil fans are not going to want to hear, but you got to be mindful of that, because there is growth there. But
so let's break down a few things because, 3 overtimes out of the 4 games played. Yes, it was a sweep. 3 overtime games. So Draisaitl led the playoffs with 5 points in 4 games. But besides McDavid, who got a point a game, you basically next have about 3 players. So you got Larson, Cassian, Puljujarvi, and RNH, who is a UFA. So what's going to happen there now? They only got 2 points. So is this a depth issue? Because I've been looking all over today, and I see all over Twitter, there is a ton of people, some in the mainstream media, some that are just on social media, but they're all talking about how in Holland's press conference, and how all Holland's talking about is about the depth. So does that mean they're not going anything higher? They just need better low-end players? Because that's been a complaint in Edmonton forever, that they're always going for lower end players, but they still need better players.
Yes. Yep, I agree. I think we definitely need depth. If you look at the regular season stats for the Edmonton Oilers, right, and you look at all the forwards, so I'm excluding the defensemen who, like Darnell Nurse and Tyson Berry, had unreal years, like really almost career years for both of them. The next guy up, I don't know who it would be, but I believe is at 38 or 39, just under 40 points, right? You guys can comment in the section below, say who it is. Is it Archibald?
Are we talking besides
Nuge?
Nurse? Nuge came in at 35 points in his 52 games.
Right. So I'm talking about all forwards. So you have McDavid have a career year with 105 points. You have Draisaitl coming in at 84 points, 85 points. And then the next drop off is Ryan Nugent-Hopkins at 38 points. Like you can't, you can't perform at that level and have that drastic of a drop. So depth is a major issue. Wing is a major issue. Center, we need to be better on face-offs because we struggle. And I think that's something on the game that they need to work on, right? And I think one of the things that Edmonton lacks is consistency, which this has been throughout the decade of darkness, is 60 minutes of consistent play. They play in bursts of excellence, and then they slow down or take their foot off the pedal. And I think that's where we need to better themselves. Now, here's what I also want to preface. Give credit where credit is due. The Winnipeg Jets played elite hockey. They had unreal goaltending.
Absolutely.
They had solid defense, which very few people were considering like a solid top four. I mean, Dylan DeMello, Josh Morrissey, right? These guys stepped up. They played unreal, especially since they were so depleted 2 years ago. And Paul Maurice played the system. And I think, whatever reason, just like last year, Mr. Tippett got out-coached. I really do. He is 1-7. He did random things. Now, I give him credit for what he did in the third overtime, only because you don't expect to go to 3 overtimes, right? No coach says, okay, we're going to be in 3 overtimes, because then you're going to play different guys. You may have played Bear. You may have played Cahoot. I mean, whoever was in, right? I think Cahoot was sat for that game, but you could have played anybody else, right? Kyler, Yamamoto, PRV, whoever it may be. You don't expect to go to 3 overtimes. That being said, he doesn't adjust to the game, and there's a level of stubbornness, which, good or bad, has hindered the Edmonton, and he is now 1-7 in the playoffs under this team. And next year is his last year of his contract. And so in my mind...
The 3-year contract he was in?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a little bit longer.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if he was the same as a 5-year. But I could
have been a 5-year.
Yeah, I could see if at the end of next year, if it's a colossal failure again, unless they can drive deep next year, I can see Tippett definitely out of there. Okay, can I talk for a minute about the coaching, about that series? I hear what you're saying about the fact they didn't know they go to 3 overtimes. But when you play your third period already, he's already lined up Draisaitl and McDavid together, which then basically, I mean, Nuge's line played incredible, except he's playing now the whole third period. McLeod's pretty much off. I don't even know if I saw him in there. Didn't see a lot of faults earlier in the game. Just didn't see a lot of offensive flair. Shore came in, which, you know what? I was surprised. Shore played well. But I felt like Kassian needed to be moved out of there. And to see Puljujärvi drop down with one mistake, yet you see other players. Nurse had a really bad first 2 periods. His third, fourth, fifth, and almost part of the sixth, I thought actually Nurse played well. So the way he coached with that lack of that lineup, and most of the year wearing those guys down, they had no juice left, man. And I just think that coaching method, he was never able to figure out how to solve the system that was put in, the structure that was put in place, the way they adjusted to the Oilers for the playoffs with Maurice's coaching. They couldn't do it. And last year was the same. And my concern is that Tippett is a guy who just rides his best players and plays such a basic foundational system and doesn't even barely do line matching, with it. And I see Oiler fans in Oiler Nation going absolutely crazy on Tippett this offseason. It's just like, when you're looking at trying to play someone like, Draisaitl and McDavid, which Draisaitl could be a number 1 center on any other team other than maybe working with like Matthews or McKinnon on any other team. No, he would be there. This is what's interesting. Why do you weaken your team by doing that? I realize you don't have anyway. It was a frustration, Pavel. I really thought
it was. I also think that Edmonton, like, there's 2 concerns, because I'm going to talk about special teams a little bit.
Okay.
Certainly, McDavid apparently wasn't called on even 1 penalty throughout the entire series. So 4 games, no penalty. Yeah. That's unreal. That's never heard of. That being said, we had a few 5-on-3s. We had a few, power plays, and we didn't capitalize. And that was our number 1 weapon. And the fact that the teams Winnipeg knew how to break that and make us pay. You got to be able to score in the power play. Like, those are rare, far and few in between. If you've watched some of the other series, which we'll get into a little bit later, and if you're watching, they're exciting, it's hard to get a power play. And if you can't score on the power play, you're not going to be able to sometimes take over the game. And that could be a make or break deal, right? That's one of the reasons we got up so quickly in game 3, is because we had three or 4 power plays, right? So again, I bring it down to that. Coaching for the regular season, Tippett is excellent. in the playoffs, there needs to be some sort of adjustment. And I wonder if we are in a similar bubble that Toronto was last year before they made the coaching change from Mike Babcock to Sheldon Keefe. And you see how that team progressed. Now, that being said, they brought in some new bodies. They changed it up. And maybe the team drowned out Babcock's message. I don't know. And he got him to the playoffs 3 years in a row, and he made it solid. But for whatever reason, they shouldn't have gotten out of they couldn't get out of the third round. Now it looks like they're on the cusp of eliminations. We'll see what happens tomorrow between them and Montreal. But I think it looks like, whether it's Woodcroft coming down from Bakersfield, which you also need a good, solid coach down there, because teams are already eyeing for a new head coach in some big markets, Seattle, Buffalo, Arizona, they're all looking. And if they can get a solid coach who knows how to develop young players, it's a young man's game, and you know how to talk to the young guys and you can relate to them, these old school coaches aren't going to work, right? And so, I look at it as that there's a short leash for Tippett for next year. I think if we have a mediocre start, not even like a bad start, like a mediocre, right? Like we're 5-5-1. Tippett's job is on the line, because I think they're going to try to see, because there's no way that they're going to try to do what they can.
Yeah.
That being said, it comes down to, and I know social media is a big presence, I feel like McDavid has way more influence on the team setup than people give him credit for. I feel like he has a voice in that locker room as well as in management. And I could be proven wrong, but the play with Puljujärvi, when he yelled at Puljujärvi for making a mistake, and rightfully so, players get heated. Be strong, call people up. Ovechkin called up Samsonov. I don't disagree with it. You're angry. You want to win. You want to be the best. Yeah. I've seen, who was it? Kessel in the day with Malkin, just arguing, like yelling at each other on the bench. But, you have 2 cups out of that from those guys, right? The fact that Puljujärvi was then dropped to the 4th line, that by Tippett,
and actually that's interesting, because that was the part I was talking about earlier. And when I saw that, and I get it, right? If there was a chemistry issue, it's like you go left when you're supposed to go right, or you miss a block, or as they say in football, right? But here's the thing: why not move Cassian off and put him up with RNH? Because he has the scoring potential. He is a top 6 forward. He's proven it this year. When you make him, like, if you're making more than one mistake, but nothing was saw out there during that period of time. And so anyway, I think the Oilers were just frustrated. I think that they got out coached. I saw the frustration. So there's going to be a lot of stuff happening with a lot of cap space with the Oilers. So we'll just do a quick wrap up for you who's listening. You're like, enough Oilers. We're going to come over to the St. Louis Blues for some of you in just a moment. But let's just take like a minute or two and talk about the potential based on some of the conversations, whether they're re-signing Tyson Barrie and RNH. Now, we know that there's talk about Larson. I'm going to say that he's in. I think he's in under $4 million or max $4 million for 2 or 3. I'm guessing it's a 3-year. But let's just say RNH. I heard in the press conference right after, when they talked about the core of the team, McDavid refers to RNH. He's one of the boys. And I cannot see Nuge leaving McDavid, and I cannot see McDavid being okay with losing a player of that quality that plays that 200-foot game and has versatility. Because as I tell people on our social media, even on our page, find me another player that's going to make less than McDavid, than Nuge. So if he comes in between 5.75 and say 6.25, right? Find me a player that can do what he can do under that. So I wonder about that. And everything we hear, I hear nothing about Barrie staying. So what are you hearing? What do you think?
So I agree. I think Barrie won't stay because he's looking for the long-term deal with the big payout. He may take a little bit of a discount. He's looking, I think, in the ballpark of 6 to 7.5 for probably a 6 year. I mean, with the caps on. Oh yeah, he's looking. I mean, he was wanting eight by eight out of Colorado, right? And that's why he went to Toronto to prove himself, because Colorado wasn't going to be able to pay him, right? That they did the switch.
So let's throw a twist in. We'll talk about this down the road with the expansion draft. You have a chance for Seattle to look at the UFAs of current teams this year, so they could sign a UFA because they have that window. Could they take on Tyson Barrie and give him a contract? I mean, that would actually be a good move out of Edmonton, because Lars, if they expose Clefbaum, again, it's a 50-50 on his injury. So do you take that? They're going to expose Barrie and being a UFA, and they're going to expose, the guess is Clefbaum. I could definitely see that, and that wouldn't be a bad idea for Barrie. Pick up some money and go to a team that's, he's going to be the center focus.
It's closer to his home too, because he is from Victoria, so it's a little closer. I mean, who knows if that's a thing that could possibly happen. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure Barrie will come back. However, with Nuge, I don't think he may return, only because of the amount that he wants. I think there was already talks early in the season about him being offered 5x7, and he declined, or his camp declined, right? So if he's declining $5 million by 7 years, clearly he wants to get paid it.
That would make sense. I don't see him getting. I mean, he can go anywhere and make more than 5. That's
what I'm saying. So, but you're gonna have to take a discount. So, I want to preface this to Oilers fan for one thing. We think we have a lot of cap space, but we do not. We have about 20-25 million max. Give or take with Clefbaum's injury and whether he's back or not. But as soon as Larson signs, and I'm hearing 4x4, 4x4.5, something like that for Larson.
Okay.
And then you have, what's it called? And then you have Nuge signed up. Let's say he goes 6.5, right? That right there is 10 million, if not 11 million. So now you're down to 15 million for the remainder of your forwards. Plus you have to re-sign Mike Smith. What are you going to do about Neal and Koskinen? Are you going to buy one of them out, if not both of them? We do have some money coming out, but it's not that much money to work with. And then you have some other guys that you have to re-sign and still play. You still have some outstanding money on.
So our guest a couple of weeks ago, Sean Mullen, former play-by-play for, do I get it right? The Swift Current Broncos. So anyway, he sent a piece out. I had asked him a question because he was talking about buyouts. So he sent it on Twitter. So this is what Sean Mullen had looked it up on Cap Friendly. So Neal is going to cost us for the next 4 years on a buyout $1.9 million. Instead of 5.75 for this coming year and the next for the Edmonton Oilers. And Koskinen, he's got 1 year left at 4.5. His buyout is 1.5 for the next 2 years. So together, between the two buyouts, between Koskinen and Neal, if they go for it, it will save almost $6 million just for next season alone. And your replacement, hypothetically, could be a $6 million goalie. So that's money in, money out, and Neal's position is filled by a guy like Ryan McLeod.
Yeah, but then again, are you paying more for Smith to come back if Holland, as he indicated in his media availability, he's gonna get an upgrade?
So let me tell you what I think is going to happen. I think that they're going to look at signing him as the backup. I mean, if he can push a first line guy, that's great. He still has something in him. He's not a number one, we know that, but he can have his runs. And so I really wonder, and I feel the relationship in the organization and his love for the city and the team. I think Smith is a long-term coaching goalie. I think that those ranks, and I think he wants to play 1 or 2 more years, to get a chance maybe to make a cup run if they could do something, which the rest of the NHL will tell you no if they're non-Oiler fans. So I could see them signing him again for only 1.5. And maybe a bonus up to an extra $1 million if he plays so many games percentages. By the way, what 912 or 914 in those 4 games he had save percentage. Great.
He was good.
Great on him.
He was good, but Connor Hellebuck was the best in the goal.
Oh man, Connor right now. If the Jets can go all the way, Connor is definitely going to be the Conn Smythe in order for them to win. That guy was like,
Now, speaking of amazing goalies, but the fortunes turned. Let's look at the series between St. Louis Blues and Colorado Avalanche. So, I know you guys are probably sick of us talking about oil stuff. So we're gonna move to
St. Louis,
to the city that won the championship 2 years ago, and they are not doing so well right now. So, Evan, what are your thoughts on the sweep by the Colorado Avalanche, and what are your thoughts on the Blues moving forward?
I'm hearing, how our son and they're talking about how they feel that they still have time. They still have another 2 to 3 years to have a chance for the cup still. It's not a rebuild as, some have thought. I felt that they had lightning in a bottle the year they went with Binnington, just outstanding during that year. But remember, we've talked a lot that I've always felt that most Stanley Cup winners have a superstar. They don't have a superstar. And as great as Tarasenko is, he's not a superstar. He's an incredible player. But so I think that their window is closed. I don't think it's open. And I don't think it's fair to say because they got swept that they're not a good team. They just got swept by who many believe to be the favorite, even over Tampa, as the Stanley Cup champion this year.
Do you think they'd have a chance if Pietrangelo had re-signed?
I do. I think they would have at least been in the game, could have won a couple games. I don't think that they would have beat Colorado, though. To be honest with you, I don't think anybody is beating Colorado on the way to the Stanley Cup.
I think Vegas will give them a run for this money, but I think whatever team comes out of that will be the Western Conference champion. Is my
Minnesota is showing us though that Vegas has vulnerabilities.
Yes,
and as much as and that's why I just don't think Vegas. Again, they don't got a superstar guy, and I know you guys can go and say, well, St. Louis won 1 year, the Kings got in. Well, don't forget the Kings did have Anze Kopitar. During that, so, and some great goaltending by Quick. So, I don't know.
No, I agree. I
feel flustered when it comes to. I feel flustered though, Pavel, when it comes to the St. Louis Blues, because they're so hard to read year to year. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see the St. Louis Blues as like the Winnipeg Jets of a little bit of the '80s, and I know Brent on the series kind of talked about it where. Even though St. Louis is a strong, dominant team in the last few years, they're always making the playoffs. They're strong. They have, they always had a little bit of questionable goaltending. I mean, they let go of Jake Allen, and whatnot, and signed. But I mean, Binnington was, genie in a bottle. But but you have all these other competing teams in your division. How do you beat them? How do you beat a Vegas? How do you beat a Colorado? And at the time in the previous years, how do you beat an LA? How do you beat a Chicago? Right? Like these were the dominant teams that won, right? And they always faced them in the first or second round. So they always had a hard time getting past these teams. So it was the same thing with Winnipeg back in the day. Edmonton was so dynamic. Calgary was strong, and how do you beat those two teams? And it was tough, right? They were competitive.
So this is interesting. Just let's go back to St. Louis for a moment on Jaden Schwartz, for example, is going to be an unrestricted free agent. Not a good year. I mean, he basically scored at the same rate as Jesse Puljujarvi in Edmonton at 21 points in his 40 games. He's had a couple years where he's kind of scored at the, 0.78, 0.81 kind of a range. But he's a UFA. Do you think that they're going to be able to hold on to him within their salary cap?
For him, I don't think so, only because they're going to want to sign Vince Dunn to a bigger contract, and he's a more important piece to them than Jaden Schwartz. I think he's going to go.
What about Hoffman? Hoffman's now a UFA at the end now, officially.
Yeah, Hoffman's going to go somewhere else. He's going to find a different home somewhere. Someone's going to look for a scorer like that, and they're going to try to bring him in for a solid amount. I mean, Hoffman has a lot of money, and that's why he wants at least minimum $5. Because that was the whole thing before he moved, right? Is he didn't want to go anywhere that wouldn't give him less. Even the offseason, I think that was the whole thing last year. So, I don't know. I think the problem there is, I mean, they just locked up Binnington again, 6x6, which I think was a little bit much. But, St. Louis fans, you can tell me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
their back end is still very solid, and it's, very underrated. I think Parayko's up next year too, right? Which, he is the face of that back end now after, Pietrangelo has left. You signed Justin Folk, which we hope he has a speedy recovery after that hit from Kadri.
Parayko's got one more year left.
That's what I said, next year. That's one more year. And, and then I think up front, you just need somebody better. Now, you have a good, solid center depth. However, I don't think Bozak is back, for example. He's a third-line center who's making $5 million right now. I don't think that's worth the $5 million for a third-line center, right? Like, you need to be able to produce a little bit better.
Well, and maybe that's where you pay Schwartz to stay, right? I know he's a left wing, but maybe you can replace the center internally or on the free agent market in the flat cap. Hey, get this, though. Their numbers, so looking at Tarasenko, O'Reilly, and Shen, let's just call them their top three. They are sitting at, was it 15, 16, 18, 19, 20? They're at $21.5 million for those three guys. Now, let's look at Edmonton with their top three. So you're sitting at 21, 26, or 27 for Nuge, but you got two superstars and Nugent Hopkins a star, right? I think they're paying way too much in their two centers in O'Reilly and Shane, because they're paying like $14 million for their two top centermen.
Yeah.
Oh my!
And I love Ryan O'Reilly. I ordered his jersey. I'm looking forward to wearing it. But he is my favorite player. And now I know that there was some tension between him and Tarasenko of who would get captaincy after Pietrangelo left, and I know that there was a mixed misunderstanding or translation from their articles, because of course a lot of Russian players go back home, share some thoughts, it gets written, it gets poorly translated, and then there's a Twitter feud about it or explosion. But Tarasenko, I think the problem is the team needs to decide what Tarasenko wants to do, because he's been injury prone. His shoulder has really given up, similar to what Clefbaum has experienced. And he is like any other year, 30, 40 goal scorer. Like, he is another Alex Ovechkin, but that consistency hasn't been there, right? And they need to figure out what they have in Tarasenko, right? There's a lot of questions there, and I'm sure that they're going to have a busy off season, as well as, some other teams. But I think the Blues, just like the Washington Capitals, they're getting older. You've won a cup in the last 5 years. That is a solid thing to be proud of.
Yeah.
Do you build for the future? They have some solid draft picks coming up. Can they make something happen, right? Or do you want to push this like they did in Detroit, like they are doing in Pittsburgh, where it's just keep going to the playoffs and see what happens and see if you can recapture that genie in a bottle?
Hey, I just heard your buzzer go off. I'm just wondering if you got a call from Bettman, because he's looking for someone else and he's trying to strike a deal for TNT to get another analyst. Did they just call you?
Oh, I wish. Oh my goodness.
Hey, okay, let's take a moment because I'd like to talk about a couple of the powerhouses before we get ready to wrap up. All right, where show's moving along quickly and swiftly. Let's just talk about the Gretzky to the TNT. What do you think of this opportunity for Gretzky and also for TNT in the United States market?
Well, as Gretzky himself said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So I think this is a great opportunity for Gretzky. Honestly, he is the face, right? I mean, he is the reason why there are California teams. He is the reason why there are teams in places like Florida and Tampa Bay. He made that happen. In Nashville, in Carolina, which, right now there are crazy fans over there, and they're having an exciting series, which I've enjoyed watching, right? So I appreciate this, because Wayne Gretzky has an insight into the game. He's played it for a very long time. He's played at different roles, some good, some not bad. The coaching will omit because it wasn't the best goal at it. And not every player translates, but I think he's got a good knack for it. He's got a good TV persona. Every time I've seen him speak, he's a kind soul. He's Canadian, so he's very polite. And I think he's great for the game, and it's a good way to safely introduce the sport to TNT and get people excited about it, especially since it's like, oh, this is the greatest player ever, talking about it. And I refer to, because I watch a lot of basketball, to some of the greats like Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, who also do the TNT special on all the games, and they give insight and they say, this is what they're doing. This is the game plan. I love it. It's one of the reasons why I've enjoyed Kevin BX on the Hockey Night in Canada Sportsnet thing, because it's a player, or Anthony Stewart, they come in and they say, this is how we play. Colby Armstrong, great guy. You talk about the game, right?
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts?
What was the question?
Gretzky moving to TNT in the States.
I'm just joking. No, I think it's great. I mean, let's face it. The life of hockey in California changed when Gretzky was traded to the Los Angeles Kings. You talk to anybody in California, and they'll say hockey came alive, and they built their core base off of Wayne Gretzky playing in the United States. That was the great part. Even ending his career in New York, right? Original six, and so I actually like this idea. I've always felt, no offense to Oiler fans if you love the old boys club, but I never really felt that he was a fit back in Edmonton. I really didn't. I know he had some great days. I'm sure it was great to be a bit of a mentor to McDavid. It really helped with the promotion of the game for the Oilers in the United States markets and stuff. But I think he's going to do very well. I think he's going to be not just educational, but I think he's going to be the secret of bringing in other great analysts, Canadian guys even. And that's what I like to see, TNT. Bring in some Canadian tradition as well to really build that part of the game with TNT. So yeah, I'm pumped. Maybe who knows? Maybe Gretzky will become the Charles Barkley of analysts.
So imagine this now, Oilers fan. Do you want to get excited? Because I got to say that when the news came out, the day that Edmonton got swept, or the day after Edmonton got swept, it was the morning of, right? Because they were in Winnipeg. It didn't come off very good. And there was a lot of jokes about, this is bad timing. He's trying to get out from this whole team. But imagine this now. Gretzky's down there at TNT in 2 to 3 years from now. And he is calling the play-by-play for the Edmonton Oilers in the Stanley Cup final. Now, whether they win or not, I can't say. But they are in the final. And he is commentating about Connor McDavid playing against whoever it may be. Wouldn't that be exciting to see?
Oh, man. Everyone would say only in an Oiler fan's dreams. But you are right. I will say this, by the way. I didn't make mention of it just because we had a lot of our shows with our guests and time was short. But I had heard in some circles when TNT got on, they were looking for top-notch former superstar players. And that Gretzky's name was in the mix, as was Messier. Messier's name was in the mix. And the other person, actually, which was interesting, and this will be interesting, now I'm going to share it now, is Mike Milbury's name has come up again. Who knows, right? I mean, I know he's had some bad comments in the past. Do they give him a chance? I don't know. TNT is a very different network. So we'll see. We'll definitely see. So, hey, before we get ready to wrap up our show in the next few minutes here, why don't we just take a moment and talk about the probabilities? Let's just go back to the Avalanche and the Lightning. So with the Lightning, what do you think? What's it going to take for the Lightning? Is there anything left in that complete package that they have to be a Stanley Cup winner?
Lightning?
Yeah, for the Lightning.
Yeah, I think they do.
Yeah, I know they got to get through the series still, but.
So I think the Lightning still have a chance to go to the final. They didn't lose too many key pieces. I'm not sure if Kucherov is back. I know he was injured one of the games, I think game 4, and he didn't look very good. So I don't know if he returned for game 5 and if he's going to return for tonight's game. So no spoilers.
Yeah. Well, he played in all 5 games still, so yeah.
Vasilevsky's been strong. He's been a solid goaltender for them. I think Panthers have really given the Tampa Bay a challenge that no other team did last season except for the Islanders in the bubble. I think Colorado still needs to face a challenge. So I want to see adversity when Colorado challenges them. Because if Tampa Bay comes out of this, and this is a heated competition between the Panthers, one of the best series I've ever watched, the Battle of Florida, it's slowly, becoming a really popular thing.
Yeah.
Then they will be vetted and ready to go to the final and play hard, barring any major injuries, right? Whether it's Stamkos, Kucherov, Vasilevsky, Hedman, right? Because Hedman's on another level. He's playing well. That being said, Colorado is very deep. They're very strong. Grubauer's having an unreal playoff performance.
Yeah.
Can they face adversity? What does that going to look like for the Colorado Avalanche? And I think it would be a tight series.
So if the Lightning can put away the Florida Panthers, which let's face it, people they were underrated.
Yes.
Their track record showed everything, but a lot of people that are not from Florida really have always looked at them as the weak sister, right? And sorry for referencing that. It could be the weak brother too. But I mean, interesting enough, I wonder, will that be enough adversity of facing a team like the Panthers who have really pushed them? Or
it's hard to say. No, I think it's going to come down to the little battles, to the right, the least amount of mistakes. You got to be able to finish your checks. You got to be able to make that clean, crisp pass. These little things that I'm sure John Cooper's going to look for and make his team play the best.
Yeah.
Because, this team is seasoned. They have the experience. They won the Cup last year. They don't seem fatigued like other teams have in previous years where, like the Pittsburgh Penguins after winning their back-to-back Cups. They don't seem tired. I think they have a chance to win the Cup back-to-back, and I think they're a strong competitor. However, the East is also very difficult. You've got Boston, waiting, and Boston's a solid team. And whoever comes out between Islanders and Pittsburgh, that's not going to be an easy feature, even though they face Boston next, and between Carolina or Nashville, I mean, Nashville's showing that Saros is playing unreal. He's my Conn Smythe right now out of all of them because the way he's keeping the team in. Oh, Saros, sorry.
Yeah.
But you can't decline what Carolina has done. So I think they can win, but Colorado has that extra edge, and they have McKinnon, and for whatever reason, he has dialed into whatever Crosby has taught him and turned to 11. That's literally what I see from McKinnon.
I want to mention to everyone here, because you are one of the only ones that have mentioned this, and I want to give you your kudos. You thought Spencer Knight might make into one of the games. And Spencer Knight made into the game. He put in a 97% of the shots he stopped. He had a
23 out of 12.
A .973 save percentage.
Yeah.
And the other guys right now, Bobrovsky is sitting around in the low 800, like around 0.84 or 0.85, 0.86 or 0.87 for Chris Drager, I think is how we say his name. I know Mike was big on him. There's a potential guy for a lot of teams as a goalie 1B. But I think this is Spencer's series now. I really do. So we'll see what happens here. Don't say anything with what's going on.
It also helps that they have a great farm system for goaltenders, because they also have Dylan Wells in there from Team Canada. So that team, Drieger's gone. I think he's gone. Unfortunately, Bobrovsky's supposed to be your guy given his contract, but you do also have Robert Luongo, part of your head scout. I forget his exact title for goaltending development or whatnot. So you have Robert Luongo, right? Like one of the greatest goaltenders ever. So that team is not strapped for a goal on the back end. No. And I'm looking forward to seeing what both of those guys can do. And even though he got scored on his first goal, it was pretty amazing. But Evan, I do want to do a quick round with you before we finish.
Okay.
And I just want you to just throw it out there just to see who you think in this series. So Islanders, Pittsburgh, who comes out on top?
Islanders come out. What do you got?
Oh, I'm going to say Pittsburgh wins tonight, and Pittsburgh takes it.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Never bet against Crosby.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go to Wild and Golden Knights.
Yeah. Okay. We got the Golden Knights coming out of there. I think we're in.
Okay. I agree. And then between them and in Colorado.
Colorado takes that one. They got the scoring. That's going to get them to the Stanley Cup.
Fair enough. So before they get there to face their opponents, Winnipeg or Toronto or Montreal?
I'm going to take Toronto, and then in the Toronto Winnipeg, I am going to take Winnipeg. And Toronto guys will think I'm a Toronto hater. I'm not a Leafs hater, but they haven't faced adversity like the Jets can bring with their depth.
It'll be an interesting series. I think it goes to Game 7. I'm going to give the edge to Toronto, just because they have a lot of more depth scoring.
They do,
and everyone's firing on all cylinders. Right?
I'm worried that they do not have as good of a defensive system. They're facing the Canadians. Canadians don't have a lot of offensive firepower like the Winnipeg Jets, and the Jets played them well in the regular season. So, and
all right.
I think the Jets are going to show that coaching pays off in the playoffs. Okay.
And then Tampa or Carolina and Nashville.
Yeah, Carolina will take it. And obviously, I think that Nashville's in because of their goaltending.
Okay, and then Tampa Bay and Florida.
Tampa Bay, they're the powerhouse.
And then between Tampa Bay and Carolina.
And Tampa Bay again is going to take out Carolina. Who you going with if they meet?
If it's Tampa Bay, Carolina, I'm going to go Tampa Bay. Yeah, but
okay.
It's like Carolina can really give them a run for their money. Like that system is, yeah.
Okay.
And I could see Carolina also going to the final and playing against Colorado. So I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I think you called that one.
I wanted to see a joyful reunion of Edmonton and Carolina.
Yeah. Well, last week when we made our calls, I said Edmonton, Pittsburgh, which obviously is not going to happen, and I don't think Pittsburgh's going further. Just because selfishly, I really wanted to see a Crosby and McDavid at the same time. But
well, to talk about Pittsburgh, and I don't know what's going on in tonight's game, but Yari needs to be better as a goalie. So, would you start Casey DeSmith, or would you give it to Yari again?
You got to go with Yari. He's what you're working with right now to see what you got for next year.
And does Brian Burke, the illustrious Brian Burke, bring back Marc-Andre Fleury, the flower, in the offseason with Hextall?
Oh, I just don't think that they can afford him. I just don't think they can afford him unless they can make a deal. Man, Vegas is good at being like Tampa and circumventing the cap. They have ways of making it work. So I think the wisest decision they made was not letting go Fleury. By the way, remember the offseason, how much rumor there was in trying to trade out Fleury and get him out of Vegas. How many people had a chance to actually pick up a pick? They would take part of the salary, and they could have taken Fleury on, and they didn't do it. How many people are probably just kicking themselves for not making that deal?
Right. Well, they wanted the full salary to be taken. Vegas said flat out they wouldn't retain any salary. That's one of the reasons why no team was willing to move. They said full salary move.
It sounded like there was some potential with if you wanted to give up like a second-round draft pick, they would eat half the salary, but then they would have to move something else. So, but okay, yeah, let's just say maybe that was the reason and then the move never happened. So
and other fun, quick news, just to let you know, I believe Todd Nelson is now going to be interviewed by both Buffalo Sabres and Arizona Coyotes of former Edmonton Oilers fame and Detroit Red Wings fame.
Good for Nelson. Yeah.
For head coach job.
Good for him, man. Good for him. Yeah. So, well, yeah, next week, when we get back together, we'll also maybe cover a few kind of things happening and behind the scenes, maybe of even some groups like the Flames and some of the teams that you guys, I know some of you are watching the playoffs all sad because your teams are out of it. We'll come in with some other conversations next week with that. So let's just quickly get to the Stanley Cup final. You see who?
Colorado.
Versus?
Tampa Bay or Carolina.
Oh, you can't give it to me. You got to give me something. Come on.
Okay. Tampa Bay.
Okay, Tampa Bay, and who takes it?
Colorado takes it.
Colorado gets okay. They're back in the cup, and they're gonna win the cup. So I am going to go with the same. I think it's going to be a Colorado-Tampa Bay final. I think it goes the full 7 games, but I think that you're going to see back-to-back COVID Cup champions.
Oh.
So the COVID years will be known as the Lightning years. They're just too powerful, I think, in their depth. And then just checking for cap friendly on the Tampa Bay Lightning. Interesting enough, next year they're not losing a lot of cap. Just so you guys know. It's another year away yet. So they still got some work to do to keep that team together for the following year. So interesting. We'll see what happens next year when everybody's healthy. Wink, wink. So, well, Pavel, thanks, brother. It's been a great week.
It's been an honor just hanging out with you, Evan, and just chatting. And to everyone paying attention and tuning in, it's been a joy. We thank you all. We hope you like, share, subscribe, leave your comments, leave your thoughts, any news ideas you want to hear about. We love your input. We want you to be happy, healthy, and safe. We appreciate all the support you guys have given us. So thank you. Evan, what do we do?
In the meantime and in between time,
keep your stick on the ice.
Cheers, guys.